Good morning, everybody. If everybody would like to stand, the committee would be joining us now.
House here, I see. You've been adding and adding to the list. Welcome, and thank you for attending this licensing subcommittee hearing. I'm Councillor Janet Evans, and I will be chairing this hearing to consider the variation of the premises license of, do we say V87, I was told?
V87 Jen do, yes.
Yes, but how is it pronounced? Viahan?
Yeah, Handy, yeah.
In Notting Hill Gate. I confirm I have no declarations of interest to make. I am joined by Councillor Arretti and Councillor Noor, who will determine this application. Councillors, can you please introduce yourselves and confirm whether you have any declarations of interest tonight?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Arretti of Foreign Wall, no declaration.
Councillor Abdullah Noor, Golden Ward, no declaration.
Thank you. And by the way, we have no mics, so can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. We're joined by Fiona Johnson from the Council's licensing team.
Good morning.
And our legal advisor is Heidi Titcomb.
Good morning.
Also with us is our committee officers, Emily Beard and Holly Lee. Now the ground rules. Before we start the hearing, there are just a few ground rules, so please, it says keep your mics on mute, but that's not necessary. So please wait until you're invited to speak, and please make sure your mobile phones are silenced. Please note that the hearing is being live streamed. For clarity, I will outline the procedure of the meeting. First, the licensing officer, Fiona Johnson, will give a brief outline of the application. Then I will ask the applicant's legal advisor, Craig Bayliss, to present his submission. I understand he is joined by Marcus Thesleff, Jean-Baptiste Reclin, Scott Ashby, Pietro Kalina, and Roxy Bayati. Mr. Bayliss, you will have 10 minutes to present your case. Then questions will be asked by members of the committee. Then questions may be asked by the objectors of the applicant. Next, any objectors present will be able to present their objections. Do we have any registered objectors? I recently got 3 who wish to speak. Are you all here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
There's one over there as well, okay? So, oh, there.
I'm here.
Oh, he's an objector, okay, sorry. So Caroline Howard, Richard Darbold,
Richard G. Bell.
Lee Bell, thank you, and Gregory Porter.
Yeah.
Very good. Then questions will be asked by members of the committee to the objectors. Then questions may be asked by the applicant of the objectors. After this, we will ask our legal officer, Heidi Titcomb, to deal with any questions she may have, for example, regarding possible conditions which may be appropriate to consider. Then finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up, and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers, which comprise the main pack, and the additional papers submitted by the applicant on 17 October. There is no need to repeat their content, but please do draw our attention to certain points and pages. Let's get going. Fiona Johnson, please can you outline the case for us?
Good morning all again. Today's application has been submitted by Buller WA Limited for the variation of the premises licence at B87, 87 Notting Hill Gate, London. The premises currently operates as a cocktail bar, which benefits from the premises licence currently covering the basement. A copy of the current premises licence is attached as Appendix A in the name of the committee bundle. Today's application seeks to vary the licence by extending the terminal hour for all licensable activities and opening hours on Fridays and Saturdays by 1 hour. A table which compares the activities and timings currently committed with those proposed is included on page 6 of today's report. A copy of the application itself has been included as Appendix B. I can confirm that this application has not attracted a representation from any of the responsible authorities. The licensing authority did, however, receive 12 representations opposing this application, and a summary of these representations can be found on pages 7 and 8 of today's bundle, as Appendix C. Council records indicate that at the time of writing this report, one noise complaint had been received in the preceding 24-month period. A brief summary of this complaint is concluded on page 8. Council records also indicate that one temporary event notice was submitted in the previous 12 months. Details of this temporary event notice is attached as Appendix D. For clarity, Chair, there are no planning restrictions or conditions which the subcommittee should be aware of. A copy of the planning officer's email is attached as Appendix E. And finally, I can confirm that an additional 64-page supporting bundle was submitted by the applicant, and this document is also submitted to all parties on the 17th of October. Has everyone received these? That concludes the summary of today's application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now hear the applicant's case. Mr. Bayless, will you be submitting for 10 minutes? And otherwise, there's a Mr. Bunch who wants to support, and he has to have part of your 10 minutes.
Chair, as Heidi knows, I won't take up 10 minutes. You've read all the papers, so I'll be very brief, but I do want Mr. Bunch to talk to you a little bit about the statement that he submitted as part of our supporting evidence, yes. So, but 10 minutes in total for all three of us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in future, can you please submit 65 pages a little early?
I am sorry. I do apologise.
Let's put the heat
We're
on.
grateful that you read them.
Please go for it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm not going to go through everything that's been submitted already. You've read the papers, you know what this is all about. It's effectively asking the committee for an extra 2 hours a week. 1 hour on Friday and 1 hour on Saturday. In my submission, that's not a substantial increase in what's already been provided at premises. We've been open since December 2022, so not quite 12 months yet. We've had no complaints directly to the premises at all from anybody. There are no objections today from any of the responsible authorities. Crime and disorder isn't an issue, noise isn't an issue from the environmental health officer. And you've seen the letters that we've had written in support in our pack as well. I want to deal with one particular issue which is flagged by the residents who are objecting in a number of their letters, and that's the use of the rear door at premises. There is a condition on the licence which says that the rear door must not be used except by staff. That is actually the current position. The rear door, these premises are linked commercially to another set of premises called Los Mochis, which is at the back. It's a restaurant. It's a completely separate restaurant. It's owned by the same group, but it's a completely separate restaurant premises. It's very successful. Our premises effectively is the cocktail bar to Los Mochis restaurant. So people who go to Los Mochis, they'll have something to eat, they'll come to us afterwards for cocktails. Our kitchen at Los Mochis is not big enough to accommodate the type of food and the type of offer that we have. So we use the kitchen at Via Cante to supplement the operation at Los Mochis. And what will happen through the evening is that staff members will take prepped food from the kitchen at Via Cante across the road to Los Mochis. That's how that back door is used on an irregular basis. It's not used regularly. At closing time, we will take over pre-prepped food for the following day for Los Mochis. It's certainly never used by members of the public. So, just on that point, Heidi, I just wanted to come to your potential condition 16 on the pack. And so, as far as your first amendment on condition 16 is concerned, in red, and shall be kept closed at all times during the operation of the licence. I'd be happy with that because the doors are kept closed except when staff are moving between the premises. So that's fine. Customers don't use it. What I couldn't accept, of course, is the additional red wording because that would mean we couldn't allow our staff to use the doors to take food between the two premises.
This only comes from 2400 hours.
Understood, but my understanding, and Mr. My client will correct this if I'm wrong, that after 2400, after we've closed, they will take pre-prepped food from Via Cante to Los Mochis for the following day.
And is there a time frame? Is that a short period?
Help us, Marcus, with that.
Hi. So the kitchen is used as a prep for butchery and other stuff like that. We also have our main fridges in there, simply because we don't have space in there. All cooking is done in Los Mochis. So that goes on for a couple of hours after the street, back and forth, cleaning, as well as that food use it. So.
Would it be an issue if you couldn't take prepped food after midnight to Los
It
Mochis?
would make life very difficult operation.
So, sorry, what's the hours of close?
It closes at midnight, so then that's the point that we can start doing some of those things.
Yeah, well, that's what I
So
don't
they
understand.
clean down the kitchen at Los Mochis after midnight.
Yeah.
But after midnight, they will then take food from the Via Cante kitchen over to Los Mochis, pre-prepped for the next day.
Oh, I
Because
see.
it's a clean
Yeah.
kitchen.
I see.
So it's cleaned and then it's ready to go for the next day. It's minimal. I mean, how many members of staff do you think you're going over there after midnight?
This one is two.
And all they're doing is literally carrying pre-prepped food over to Los Mochis.
We start them for breakfast the next day. Otherwise, we'll bother there.
Otherwise, I'd have been happy to accept that condition, but it's a staff issue, and if you wanted to amend it so that it reads something like, I don't, off the top of my head now, this is not used by staff from 24 hours of each day, except to transport food to Los Mochis, something like that, I'd be very happy with that.
Okay.
If you wanted to amend the condition in that way, because we're quite happy to have that condition. Members of the public do not use that at all. There is sensitive and expensive equipment to the rear of the premises. If we have customers going out that way, anybody can get in. So we're very happy that customers don't use it at the moment. And I'm happy to have the additional conditions which just limit it to staff taking food across to Los Mochis. So if you wanted to go up as an extra word, maybe happy.
Thank you.
While we're on conditions, Heidi, 28 would be happy with a reference to 2 SIA. I will push back on 3, given that we also require a street marshal on certain ones. But 2 is fine. We already provide 2 SIA, so I'll be happy with that.
Well, 22 is what you're currently required
Yes.
to have.
Yes.
I was just putting it in brackets.
Okay.
See, because I did see that there was some suggestion you had 3.
We do have an extra one when we
Yeah.
require to the street marshal, yes.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't normally want. I mean, it's a hugely expensive exercise having security
Okay.
staff, and we think that the 2 that we have at the moment are sufficient. Coupled with the fact that, of course, we already have a condition on the licence which says we can't have anybody new coming to the premises after 11:30. So after 11:30, we can't have anybody new coming to the premises after 11:30. So we think that the 2 that we have at the moment are sufficient. Coupled with the fact that, of course, we already have a condition on the licence which says we can't have anybody new coming to the premises after 11:30. So after 11:30, we can't have anybody new coming to the premises after 11:30. So after 11:30, everyone who's coming is in. There are no more new customers coming in after 11:30 because the condition on the licence says no new entry. That's condition.
28.
Thank you, Heidi.
Well, oh, you mean the condition?
No, the condition
that's a
about
different
no
one. That's a different one. It's 36.
36, yeah. So no new entry after 11:30. By 11:30, everyone who's in is in. Yeah, I've got Mr. Fesler here, he's the CEO. I'm not going to ask him any questions. You may have questions for him in terms of the way the premise operates. You will have seen from his witness statement and also that of Mr. Birch, these are very high-end premises indeed. Average spend per head is about £40 a head. They're relatively small capacity, maximum 120. We don't operate to capacity. We mostly get about 60, 70, 80 people on a Friday, Saturday night, if that. We don't operate to capacity. There's no vertical drinking. Everyone is served by waiter waitress. If you want a condition which says no vertical drinking, happy to offer that as well. I think that that's helpful on the premises. There's waiter waitress service to all tables. I am going to ask Mr. Birch, as part of my 10 minutes, just to amplify his statement. You'll have read his statement as an independent expert witness, an ex-police officer who's been asked to look at these premises and give an independent view of them. Mr. Birch, you went to the premises, I think, with your wife to go and look at the premises. Tell the committee just a little bit about the visit, when you started, when you finished, what you did during your visit.
Yes.
Your general impression of the premises and the clientele.
Can I start off with Mr. Birch? It's actually Mr. Bunch.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bunch.
Yes, you will see my previous experience, and I was a licensing officer in Westminster prior to my retirement. So we had some cross-border relationships with this borough. I also did a lot of crime work in the area as well in my previous role. Saturday the 23rd of September, I attended the venue for the evening. I went there at 7:30 and concluded around 2 a.m. My visit wasn't solely within the venue, it was in and around the area, and we walked a considerable distance, and my wife is ex-police as well, and we covered a large area around Notting Hill Gate, Kensington High Street and so on. So we got a good picture of what was going on around other licensed premises. I don't know how many venues I've had the pleasure of dealing with and working with over the years, but let me assure you, Vihante 87 is one of the most high-end venues I've had the privilege of visiting and commenting on. It's extremely well run. The staff deliver what I would call Michelin star service for a cocktail. The food is excellent. The whole venue has had over £1 million worth of investment in it. That's £1 million worth of investment in your borough. It supports local employees, and it gives something to Kensington and Chelsea that it hasn't got. It's a West End high-end cocktail bar. I understand from previous operations in there that it was a nightclub. This isn't a nightclub, it's a cocktail bar. There is going to be no rowdy behaviour. The demographic and the clientele are such that they're well heeled. They're going to go and spend there and spend a lot of money. This is a pre-drinks, post-drinks venue for an evening out.
Mr. Bunch, can I ask you to give us your impression of what was happening outside the premises when you were looking around at 1:30, 2 o'clock?
There's lots of licensed premises in that area. Public houses, restaurants, other clubs and bars. Vihante is not your issue. I can name a number of clubs and bars that where you're getting public order issues from. There's also a huge rough sleeping element in the area, and there's lots of on-street drug use that we witnessed on that night. You've also, from my interrogation of the police statistics, there is a high level of street crime. And when I say high level of street crime, it's unusual because a lot of the boroughs in London, you will see at the top of the list antisocial behaviour and crimes of violence. In this borough, it's theft in person, robberies, and so on and so forth. And this is where I would suggest gangs, from my previous experience, are coming to the area to target people that are in and around the Notting Hill Gate area. It's an expensive area to live. There's people with money, and they are targeting those people.
And your impression, please, of dispersal of patrons from the premises towards the end of the evening?
Look, the clientele, the age range went from 30 to 70 odd through the evening. They're not rowdy. They came and went in dribs and drabs throughout the evening. No one left in a big group. People were turned away if they weren't suitably dressed or of a certain age. And at the point of closing, people left. The lights that came up, the music was turned down. It was just a very slow dispersal. There's no rowdiness. You're not going to get 50-year-old people dancing up the street or shouting.
Excuse me?
Well, it's unlikely, isn't it? I would suggest. It certainly wasn't there that night. There was no rowdiness, no antisocial behaviour from any of the clients. From that.
Mr. Bunch, one particular issue that the three residents who are here today have identified is customers leaving through the rear door of the premises. What's your experience of that?
The rear door has a keypad lock on it. It's there purely for staff. I only saw manager on the night go in and out of that door, and Juan, is it? Go across to the restaurant. That maybe twice through the entire evening. I spent time in the back house, front of house, in the kitchens. That back entrance is not used by any guest at the venue. It's a staff entrance and it's secured as such.
Thank you. Do you have nothing else from me at the moment? I think we're happy to take your questions.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Aretti, do you have any questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I'll just go for one. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you, Officer. In terms of usage of V87, I'll call it, Viante, and
Yeah.
Your cocktail bar, I understand some of the main concerns by the residents using the back door. I understand you said only two of your staff would use that. Is it compulsory that you have to put your food in the night just to freeze it, or can you not accommodate a freezer back?
So the restaurant is very, very busy.
Lots of much.
It's literally, it's not even distance from here to the wall on the opposite side. It's right there on the other side of the back of the road. It does really, really well. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. Not only are we busy, but we're also giving homeless refugees stuff. So we've done 260,000 years, and that's not even it's really a lot of critical thing.
The question in particular.
No, I'm going there for a reason. It's really a lot of critical, and the reason, and so it's very busy. And as a result of that, a lot of our freezers and storage units are across the road, and we need to restock through the evening.
So that's why we have to take the food across from BFM to Dollars and
You need to keep it absolutely fresh at the top.
And particularly once Lost Motches is closed, it's the restocking for the next day.
So technically there's no option apart from using
I don't have enough space at Lost Motches for the amount of food we need to store because it's so successful.
And you say it takes about under 30 minutes to transfer the food from
No.
Viante to Lost.
No, we said it's literally across the street.
No. The overall, so let's say you finish V87 at let's say 12 o'clock, 12 midnight. Just an example, right? And how long would that take you?
It depends on when the kitchens are fully clean, stores. Obviously, we make sure everything's clean before something.
So Lost Motches finishes at midnight. They then clean down. Takes about half an hour, 40 minutes, I would guess, to clean the kitchen down. And once that clean down is done, we can then take the food across from Viacante to Lost Motches.
So the point when you're ready to take the food, let's say all the kitchens
Yeah.
clean, everything
Yeah,
done, you
yeah.
have the food on your
Yeah.
in your hand,
Yeah.
right? How long would that take to
It would
transfer?
take about 15 minutes, I would guess, to 15, 20 minutes to take the stocks across. If that.
Depends on the team.
I mean, worst case scenario, we could take the food at the front door of Viacante, all the way around Farmer Street to Lost Motches at the back. But, you know, it's an easier thing to do for us to use the back door because it's right there. It's cutting down the travel time for the food. You don't want food exposed, you don't want members of staff tripping over and dropping food in the street on Notting Hill Gate. So it's just an easy way for us to restock Ross Muchas.
Mr. Moore, Councilman Moore?
I just short question, one short question
Yes.
is, I mean, how do you check? I know it's one of the conditions of the beer license is the age appropriate before they accept alcohol.
Well, we have a club scan at the front door, so all patrons who come in have to have their ID scanned to make sure that they are over 18. And also we have the security staff who are there to vet them as well. You know, from Mr. Bunch, that they'll turn like people who aren't appropriately dressed, who don't look right, whose age isn't appropriate. But we have the club scan as a final matter. Thank you.
Mr. Bunch,
Yes.
can I ask you, you mentioned that the food was very good. So can you explain, where did you have the food, at the restaurant or at the cocktail?
No, it was, can I describe it as finger food? In the hand day?
I mean, it's a bit bigger, but the idea is
Yeah.
Is it tapas or?
Yes.
Mochas is a proper sit-down restaurant chair.
I see.
Viacante is much more of a cocktail bar with finger food as an accompaniment rather than as a main. You wouldn't go to Viacante for food. It's nice to have it with you, and staff will always give you water as well with your drinks when they serve it to your table.
So it'll soak up the alcohol.
But it's primarily a cocktail.
The food is substantial,
Right.
and it's available. And if I can highlight another thing which I was very impressed with, the staff are so attentive. You have a water glass, and throughout the evening, as soon as you take a sip out of it, they're back round and they top your water glass back up. And that was for everyone in the venue. And everyone was consuming water because it was readily available. So there was the likelihood of drunkenness at any extreme level is very unlikely.
Okay, now, the power of social media. I looked on it,
Oh, chair. Dangerous.
now I understand about bars, what people know. But someone wrote that the clientele was 18. But from what you say, the price range would not really.
I don't recognise that chair now. I mean, from what you heard from Mr. Bunch, he was actually there. Don't believe it. It's at least 25 plus, maybe 30, 35.
So if someone rang you about an 18 birthday.
Oh, you'd probably turn it down, I suspect.
An 18th birthday?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they had, normally they wouldn't have that, right? So they couldn't afford it. So, I mean, I'm being honest, right?
Yeah.
It's most people can't. But I suppose if theoretically, if everybody's over 20, everybody would be scanned, obviously, if it happened, yeah. But I mean, I can't even think of something.
It's not your age, but the chair's trying to get the age profile of your
it's-
customers.
I'm 50, most of it's my It's everybody living in around Notting Hill, Kensington, Camden Hill, lots of the neighbours in Hillgate Village. You can see that from all the letters. It's all of that. It's our crowd because we don't want to go into Mayfair every time. It's more about that. We want to be the best cocktail bar in the whole of our PC. Hopefully, win some awards.
And well, we already discussed condition 16, so we will now go on to see if the legal advisor has any questions.
Thank you, Madam. Just two. Craig, could you just confirm that the dispersal policy has been?
Yes, it's in the pack. It's in the pack.
That's the one you
that we
submitted.
that's the one that we submitted, and Fiona's confirmed that she's got it now, and she'll distribute this for me as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And could you just comment on, I suggested condition
I
41.
did say that.
Um,
I am going to push back hardly on that because effectively it's cutting our hours back on Sunday to Thursday. If we have to have all patrons cleared through the premises by midnight, effectively, we're currently allowed up until midnight to serve alcohol. That would mean effectively we have to be shutting down the service at 11:30 to get people out, and that seems to me that it's cutting down our current permitted hours.
well, aren't you currently, they have to be off by midnight? Anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm not convinced that opening and closing hours are enforceable conditions. I think they're advisory rather than enforceable. But
No,
We have-
at the moment, I thought A was uncontroversial because I'm just replicating what you've got.
Yeah.
that they have to be off anyway by 2400.
Well,
because
the
that's
the
what,
premises have to close. I'm not sure that that's the same as being off the premises. But we also have consumption of alcohol till midnight as well,
yeah.
which
But-
doesn't sit well with the closing time of 24 hours.
Okay, but in terms of this extension,
Yeah.
so obviously the committee can attach a condition if they consider it appropriate. So in terms of the extension of hours, it's normal to have this condition on most licences.
Yeah.
I was actually a bit shocked it wasn't on
I'm
the
surprised. I
licence.
mean, it's very like Westminster, because Westminster always had the condition where your alcohol and closing time is exactly the same. It never makes any sense to me at all.
No, but in Kensington, this is a standard condition.
Yeah.
And it would mean, so basically your activities, your licensed activities would finish at if they were minded to grant
2:30,
the extension, then they would finish at 2
Yeah.
and you'd have the drinking up time. Because you've already said in your 64-page document that you do have a wind down time anyway.
Yeah.
So-
I'm going to stick with what we've applied for at the moment. It's a matter then for the committee.
Okay, fine, okay.
On the basis that the current condition that has closing time and end of licensable activity time at exactly the same time, I'm going to ask the committee to mirror that.
Thank you.
Councillor Reggie, you had an additional question?
Yeah, two questions, Mr. Chairman. Could you briefly explain the extension of hours on Friday and Saturday? What proposition that would add to your business, or the reason for the extension?
We're busy. Friday and Saturday we're busy. Up until 1:30 we're busy, and it's we think an extra hour would be nice for customers to stay a bit longer.
So that
It's as simple as that. It's an extra facility. If we were busy every night of the week, we'd be asking for it every night of the week, but we're not. And we've taken a realistic view about what we think is appropriate for the area. And effectively, it's an extra hour on a Friday and an extra hour on Saturday.
It's also on the Sunday prior to bank holidays.
Yeah.
So the following Monday.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're actually applying for Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. Friday and Saturday.
According to the application, it's also on the
Sunday
Sunday.
before
but-
bank holidays.
yeah.
Okay, my next question, obviously your closing time and serving time have the same.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, midnight, I believe, 1:30. On your cocktail bar, Los Conchas, is it?
The restaurant, yeah, the next restaurant. Yeah.
I know that's different premises and different
Sure.
conditions, but what about the other one? Do you have the?
What hours do you close, Marcus? I've lost much midnight.
So, no, but is that where the serving time is the same? Or?
No, so it's a restaurant, right? So we put the kitchens or everything that, and the last call, every.
Okay, so that's just
But that's not a complex restaurant.
And then we find very often the people who are at Las Muchas have been to us for a cocktail beforehand.
Any other questions?
So essentially you're saying you're not happy with closing at 24, I mean, the last serving will be at 24. Is that what you're not happy with?
The licence already allows us to serve alcohol up until midnight, Sunday to Thursday. And if we had to get everyone off the premises by midnight, Sunday to Thursday, that would mean we'd have to effectively shave time off our alcohol licence, because we'd have to stop serving half an hour early.
Well, no, well, that's not the suggestion here, because obviously this is not a review. Okay,
Yeah.
so the suggestion is not to alter your operation Sunday to Thursday, apart from the Sunday prior to a bank holiday. Okay, so 41A
Yeah.
is the same as what you've got, because you have what you hold. Okay, but the issue here is public nuisance.
I understand.
And if you've got people milling about outside later at night, then that will cause noise. Doesn't matter how well behaved they are,
Understood.
and it can be one or two people.
Understood.
Especially women in their high heels, they make a lot of noise. I'm
Understood.
sure about that. And I can say that.
I mean,
So,
in my submission, there's no linkage between any sort of disruptive nuisance or crime disorder with these premises. We've had one complaint about music noise, which we say wasn't us in the past 12 months. no complaints direct to the premises about anything at all. And the responsible authorities don't make any representation in terms of crime disorder or noise nuisance. So those are my submissions in relation to any nuisance issues.
You'll get your opportunity to speak. It's
Huh?
just that you're an objector, you will get an opportunity to speak.
I was just indicating that I would like to at some point.
Yes, you'll be
You're
given,
next.
you'll be given an opportunity.
Yes.
We have three of you who are objectors who want to speak. I have Caroline Howard, Richard Dubell, and Gregory Porter. In which order would you like to go? You look very, very excited to speak, so would you like to go first?
Yes, if that's,
Yes.
if that's, yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Excuse me, wait, residents, do you have any questions of the applicant? Questions before you go into your question?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a number of questions.
Okay.
Do I have the space to ask?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes, my name is Richard Dubell. I'm a resident of Hillgate Village.
Right.
My neighbour, whose name I've forgotten, seems to paint a very bleak picture. I wondered why you would want to open an entertainment business in somewhere as bleak and dangerous as Hillgate, as Notting Hill Gate, but you are. But what I would like to ask, I'm sorry, can I, your name is Mr. Bush?
Bunch,
Oh, Bunch.
as in flowers, grapes and bananas, sir.
That's what I was going to Mr. Bunch. On which day did you visit?
Saturday the 23rd of September.
Saturday the 20th of September. And would you please name the nearby entertainment venues from which noise and disturbance could emanate?
So, the areas I walked. There was, I'm going from memory now, Prince of Wales pub on the corner of Kensington High Street, Kensington Church Street, the Uxbridge Arms. There were other venues in and around Via Hante across the other side of the road. I can't remember the names of the clubs, I can picture them. The McDonald's was pretty rowdy. There was the public house, the Sun in
Really?
Splendour. There was lots of other
Quite well
restaurants.
away though, isn't it?
There's lots of other bars and restaurants. A lot of the objections are quite a way away from our venue.
Mm-hmm.
The point I was trying to make was that we walked all of that area and there was a lot
And
of
what are
rowdy
the
people.
licensing hours of those nearby venues?
Some over till 3, don't they? I can't remember which is which.
It's in the
It's in the
packet.
pack.
In the pack.
Any licensed premises that are it's within 100 metres. It's over 100 metres. All the licensed venues are in the back of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read the packet?
And my witness, or my rep,
This is not your opportunity to speak. It's just questions that you have for the applicant.
I visited La Hante 87, very nice, beautiful venue, expensive, divinely decorated, wonderful food and drinks. It's aspirational. Lots of, I know it's probably unusual for us, but lots of people in their 20s and 30s, when there is a beautiful place like that, like to sort of hang around and to go to other.
Are you asking a question?
Yes, I'm going to ask this.
Okay.
I'm just trying to set the scene. Are you aware, Mr. Bunch, of the entertainment venue closed now called Pharmacy, where they had a bar downstairs for those aspiring to eat upstairs? It was a media place.
I have no knowledge of that venue
You didn't come
whatsoever.
across it, no. The only reason I ask is because when a place, or would you consider this bar to be an aspirational venue where people, perhaps from the less expensive bars you've mentioned, sort of mill around? I know it's a strange thing.
If you're asking it that it would be a draw, I don't.
Mhm.
I think the way that the venue is marketed, the way the venue is actually presented at street level, there's nothing exciting about it outside. You can't hear any music from the venue. It is just a black door. I don't think it would be a draw for young people because one, they couldn't afford it. Two, they wouldn't get entry anyway. And the client base that Mr. Marcus is trying to attract is not that type of person.
Are you familiar with the Notting Hill Gate Arts Club, which is further along? Yes. Well,
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
so people sit. That's a black door with steps down.
yeah.
No, a lot of people come.
But if that's providing a different genre of music and drink and entertainment, it may well do that. Viajante won't. It is a high-end cocktail bar. I promise you it won't. From my experience of working in and around the licensing trade in central London for a very, very long time, dealing with crimes and various other issues, I promise you Viajante will not cause you any further issue. It's operating now, it causes you no issue. It's looking for another 2 hours a week on a Friday and Saturday. It will not cause you issue.
Is that the end of your questions? Okay, can we now get to the case, the objector's case, please? Have you decided who will speak first? And you are, I don't...
Gregory Porter.
Okay, thank you. You have
Chair,
up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. Chair and committee, thank you very much for giving us residents the opportunity to come and put our case forward here. Just by way of background, we live at 37 Jameson Street, which is equidistant between Hillgate Street and Kensington Place. 6 years. I'll come back to Los Mochis in a minute, because since that opened, the disturbance in the area escalated from what was a very quiet area. Previously, there was Gilles Fish and Chip Restaurant, which was a much quieter venue. But it's really, since the beginning of this year, that a level of disturbance in our street has reached the levels that I and my neighbours have put forward in terms of complaint. And it is sort of one-way traffic from Viajante and Los Mochis, going down Farmer Street into Hillgate Street, and then through Jameson Street, which is a cut-through basically to Kensington Church Street. Now, the thing is, Mr. Bunch, in his representation, has suggested that he sees the problem is more coming from the other direction, i.e. coming from Kensington Church Street through in the direction of the club. That's actually not correct. We've had a doorbell video system, and I can tell you that all of the recordings on that, which are after midnight, basically 75% of that is the traffic going the other way. It's coming from the direction of the applicant's establishments. So the other thing I wanted to say is that going to the rear door. Now, I appreciate people don't come in and out of that, but Caroline and I have walked past, and the security personnel have actually invited us to go into club, albeit not through that door. But
No, it was through that door. It was through that door.
Okay, all right, but that's my understanding. I seem to recall that he sort of said you had to go around to the front. However, in a way, the security person is effectively propositioning business. So that can't be right. The other thing is that although there seem to have been no complaints that have been registered previously, apart from the applicant's mention, am I right in thinking that there's an ongoing dispute between you and the cinema operator at the moment due to the noise levels? So I can tell you first-hand experience. I went to cinema last Wednesday, and we were struggling to hear the film because of the noise reverberating through the basement of your establishment. So I would certainly, if that's the good, we have heard locally that there is a dispute between you and the cinema, and I think that probably needs to be looked into. And I appreciate that Los Mochis is not part of this application, but that has had an impact since it opened. It has escalated since Viajante opened earlier this year. And whereas I see the applicant's credentials are absolutely wonderful, The residents haven't had the opportunity to put their credentials forward to our rights to a decent night's sleep. And there's no doubt about it that we are woken up between any time between 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Loud, rowdy people. You know, Mr. Bunch, you said there is no rowdy behaviour in the club. You might actually be quite correct, but the rowdy behaviour takes place once people leave the establishment. That's our problem. Do you have anything to?
Yes, only a few things, which is, I don't want to sound repetitive, but as I said, we live in Jameson Street, we've been for about 7 years. It was fairly peaceful until the Smotches opened, and then the cocktail bar. And although I understand there have been no complaints about the cocktail bar, and I can't say whether it's correct or not, we know locally that everybody has complained, particularly in, I've forgotten the name of the street, in the street that was launched, in Farmer Street, yes.
Or do you live near each other?
Yeah, we
live in the same house.
We live together, yes, so we have been speaking Farmer Street residents particularly upset. A lot of them were told they couldn't come today because they said the complaints were against the Smotches. But all I hear is that the two are very interconnected and that the cooking and the moving of food and things like that. So it seems strange that people are complaining about the disturbance late in the evening from Los Smotches. I don't know if it's the cocktail bar Los Smotches. You say it's the same customers, so they're going from one to the other, but they're definitely walking around and disturbing us and waking us up. And we have CCTV, we can see the animal.
One of the other things is there's a big congregation at 8:30 outside the club the other night, to the point where it's impeding access to the cinema, where there were lots of youngsters standing outside smoking and vaping. And that was 8:30 in the evening. Now, that's not causing more noise at night time, but what it is doing is impeding people walking along the pavement, getting into the cinema. And again, it adds to the level of antisocial behaviour that are associated with this business.
And the backdoor point is that we had had a meal at a small Italian restaurant that is right next door to your cocktail bar, the entrance in Notting Hill. We then walked round, some bouncers were standing there with a big door open, we saw what's happening. There seemed to be an awful lot of people milling around, not until about 10 o'clock. Come in, we're having and the invitation was come in that entrance. Now we declined because we just came for a meal, just looked a bit scruffy, we didn't look like we're going to a cocktail bar. But that did happen, so I'm a little bit concerned that you say absolutely never, ever, ever. And you can shake your head, but telling the truth is what happened. Happened to both of us. The cinema incident, we're members of the Gate Cinema, we had heard complaints, we hadn't experienced them ourselves, but because it's been the summer and we go to the cinema, we went to see a Martin Scorsese film, which if you know them, very, very loud films, and yet we were constantly disturbed by this noise. I was shocked at the noise from the cocktail bar, and that film started at 8:30 in the evening. So my concern is, keeping the hours even longer is going to be very disturbing. You know, it's very distressing when you're constantly woken up, at 1:30 in the morning when you've gone to sleep. I want to stop at a cocktail bar. I thought that was great to the area, but not late when it's disturbing us, all the residents. It's not fair. I think there's the main point. I was a bit surprised about local employees, but if you say you employ a lot of locals, because you're already saying it's a very wealthy area, people can't live there, and don't appear to be. I'm not sure, Mr. Bunch, so just to go to you finally before I finish. You only seem to have been there one night, and you're not really able to say that there are lots of other, I don't know loads of other nightclubs that people are walking around. They just don't seem to be, because they're not really coming in from Kensington Place. They're coming from the cut through next to the club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard Dubell?
Yes, one thing I would like to mention would be the closing, the removal from public use of Newcombe Street.
Sorry, what is that?
Is funneling pedestrians through Jameson Street. There is a development proposed, actually the Newcombe House development. The developers have closed the street. You're probably aware of this, aren't you? Have closed the street, which may have increased the number of pedestrians coming through Hillgate Village, and Jameson Street, Hillgate Street in particular.
This is your opportunity to say why you're objecting to this application.
I was trying to be helpful as well. I understand.
Yes, but we want to make sure that you get your 10 minutes and you can then introduce your witness if you want to make some submissions. So you can do that now.
Could I just add that there seems to be some confusion over which establishments in Kensington Church Street mentioned. One of the pub names is wrong. One of them is actually in the other direction, which is Maxford Street, which is actually Johns. But the two pubs which are in close proximity in Kensington Church Street are Kensington Wineries and the Church of Arms, both of which close at 11 o'clock in the evening.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Mr. Dubell, did you want to add to this?
Well, we seem to be talking very affluently about cocktails, but cocktails by and large are alcohol.
Yes. There's also non-alcoholic cocktail.
Yes,
They're
of
called
course,
mocktails.
of course they are. You were talking about people drinking alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
not really sure.
That's why we're here, it's the licensing committee.
Yes.
So what particular submissions would you like to make for the committee to take into account, you and your witness?
Well, I don't like being woken up at 2 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning by noisy, perhaps cocktail-related behaviour. Quite simple. I don't think any of us would do that.
Thank you. Does your witness want to speak as well?
Would you like to say anything?
There's, on the corner of Newcombe Street and Kensington Place is the Bethesda Chapel. Since the closure of Newcombe Street, people are now, the flow of pedestrian, or the route pedestrians take, is down Jameson Street, turning left on Kensington Place, and walking in front of the Bethesda Chapel. There was also there's a block there which was a sort of a halfway house for rough sleepers, all closed, but they've boarded it off in blue, and you can, it's very clear to see in front of the Bethesda Chapel. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come. The following morning, that people have urinated against the blue board. There are lots of bottles, not brought out, I'm sure, from, a cocktail bar. But there has been an increase, as Caroline and Greg say, of antisocial behaviour, particularly, I'd say, over the last year.
Can I just say that this application is to consider this the application that is being made. So if there are problems with other premises, and you've already said, you just mentioned then that you didn't think the bottles were relating to this premises, then you either need to take it up with those premises or contact the licensing team, register your concerns, and then they can investigate. But what the committee need to know here is whether you've got any particular issues that you want to raise about the possible extension of hours that they're requesting.
No, I take the point. I think
we have
Mr.
your...
Bunch has given a very holistic description of the area.
The committee will accept that Mr. Bunch, he visited on one day, it's only a snapshot, whereas residents live here all the time.
Yeah.
The committee are very well aware of that. With due respect to Mr. Bunch, it is only a snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
He was there one day, even though it was a number of hours.
Yes.
Did you want to add anything? It has to be relative to this application, please.
I believe that the clientele of the Agente 87 is wealthy, affluent, and of a certain age, but I think it is like a magnet. People are hanging around more in our area, and their behaviour is antisocial. there is, what other explanation can there be if they can't afford to go in there? Where are these people coming from? What is going on? They must be hanging around, I think, no?
Okay, are we done?
I think this,
Sorry?
I think there will now be questions from the applicant if you have any.
Just a few, Heidi, thank you, yes. I want to ask Caroline Howard, you and Mr Porter live in, is it James Street? Jameson Street. Can you see the rear door of the premises from your house?
No.
So in your letter of objection, you said, for whatever reason, most customers vacate the bar through a rear door into Hillgate. How do you know most customers? That means more than half of the customers
Well-
every night. Can't finish. Most customers, more than half the customers every night are leaving through the rear door. How do you know that if you can't see the rear door?
Well, I'm not always in my house. I do leave my house.
Yeah.
I work in the West End. I get out of the tube at Notting Hill and I walk exactly past it.
And so when you walk past,
And I socialise in the area.
When you walk
and
past-
we're out and about.
when you walk past the rear door at 1:30 in the morning, are most customers leaving through the rear
I
door?
don't know that, but I cannot.
Well,
I
you
have
said
seen
in
it
your letter.
early. Yes, because I have seen it. Because I myself was invited in.
Well, at what time have you seen people leaving through the rear
No,
door?
I can't give you. I wasn't expecting to even be sitting here talking. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Porter, do you want to help us?
No,
You
No,
said the same
no,
thing.
that detail.
You know, most of the people in Farmer Street, and I think there were 3 or 4 representations, we know in particular one who lives at number 10, who is a constant objector to the goings-ons outside Los Monches, and you know, it's from him.
I'm trying to establish if you said in your letters that most people, or people
No,
often emerge,
I have seen people emerge from that door.
and you're sure
whether
that
they're just going out for a quick vape or whatever. You know, I mean, to give you an opportunity, it may be your staff taking food across, etc. But it didn't look like people carrying trays to me. It looked like people who were dressed up
Okay.
for cocktails crossing the road.
Okay. So, would you accept a little bit of element of exaggeration in your letters of representation when you say that most? When you say, can I finish, please?
No idea.
When you say that most customers leave through the rear door, that's not true, is it?
No, that may be an exaggeration.
Yes.
Maybe exaggeration.
Well, the word,
It's
the word
feeling.
most is.
Yes.
Have you seen the pack of information that we sent to the committee?
Well, the very late pack that arrived a few
Yes.
days ago. Yes, that was.
You managed to read it?
emailed
You
to
managed to read it?
And I had a read of it, yes. It was
And
too
you-
late to kind of put any
Well, I mean,
representations in.
I make reference already to Mr. Bunch's said,
Yes.
Yeah,
which
I
I
read
think
that.
part of which is just not correct.
And were you surprised to see a letter in support from someone who lives in Farmer Street?
Yeah, very surprised actually.
You know
One
that
person in Farm Street. I have no idea who that is. I was very surprised. I wonder if they're an owner. Maybe they're a short-term tenant and Airbnb.
But you're speculating.
Yes, of course I'm speculating. I have no idea, but I did
Thank you,
notice
Chair.
most of the objectors.
No,
adopted
actually,
into
I
the
was
village.
flabbergasted.
Yes.
In terms of everyone else I know in Farmer Street.
I think the rest of Farm Street would be very
I
depressed.
think you
to
can
read
only
that.
speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? Because.
Whereas you said the-
You can hear him saying.
Yeah, and Farm Street people weren't allowed to, they couldn't ask them. They were told, because the way they had written their objection was apparently more to do with those watches, because of all they're talking about is the disruption. And now it's becoming clear that a lot of the disruption is the toings and throwings that's going on. That's mainly their complaints. But they weren't allowed to come today, so we've spoken to them firsthand.
Now, I should just make it clear that if there are lots of objections from residents, both in relation to this premises or the other one, it is helpful if you write to the licensing department and register these complaints, because they can look into them and they can also have a record and identify. I mean, there is obviously a connection, because you've admitted there's a connection
Yeah,
between
absolutely.
the customers of the 2 premises. And that can be something that the licensing department can look into. And I would urge residents to do that, because that's often a complaint made by applicants saying that there's no record of complaints. So people do have to make the complaints. I appreciate that you may not want to make them 1 in the morning, but if you do it the following day and it actually explain what happened, it's very helpful when you come to these hearings. And it's also helpful for the operator, because if there are issues, they can tackle them.
Okay, Councillor Oretti, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Question to the objectors, anyone could answer. I know the question was raised by the applicant about whether you can see the premises from your front door. You raised a point about these people congregating or making noise or rowdy crowd. Do you have any evidence that those specific people that you identify were from either Los Mochis or Filiani?
I've got video evidence to suggest that more than 75% of people who come down Farmer Street into Hillgate Street and through Jameson Street past our house are coming from that direction. They are not coming from the witness statement here in terms of other establishments in Kingston Church Street. It's quite clear. And it is young girls and young men who stand particularly outside our house, sitting on our windowsill, but mainly congregating on the corner of Hillgate Place and Jameson Street, and either waiting for Ubers, or shouting, or screaming, or urinating, very occasionally fighting. The whole point here is that you get woken up at 1:30 or 2:30 in the morning. That's it. At our age, you don't go back to sleep again. So no, you don't ring up first thing in the morning and complain or make a complaint. One, there's probably no point, and two, you're busy trying to get over the fact that 1 or 2 nights a week you're not getting any sleep at all. That's really, I think, the main complaint on behalf of all of us here.
I share your frustration and concern. I'm a resident as well. So your worries about the cumulative impact rather than specifically with this premises.
Well, I think one of the submissions was that someone sort of said that basically this nightlife is creeping into the area.
Yes.
Which is a good point. No, as I said it right at the beginning, there is no doubt that Los Mochis has had an impact on the area, but that has been seriously amplified since the beginning of this year, since the nightclub.
Right. Thank you. So if sorry, yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I just said it's earlier than that. It was started in the last autumn.
I know they've asked for an extension on a Friday and Saturday, and I will from the existing time. If you were to approve, let's say, what would be your conditions or what would your decision be?
Well, I revoke the current licence. There's no doubt. In the 6 years we've lived there, since Gilles closed down, up until that point, up until the point Los Mochis opened, we didn't have a problem with rowdy behaviour and sleepless nights. Los Mochis opened, that increased. The Agenti opened, it amplified. There's no cure. There's nothing they can do to make this situation any better, apart from they should not get the licence extension and make things worse.
So your problem is only with the extension.
It's not ideal, but I like basically that. But that's not a commercial reality. They have a licence and they're operating perfectly legally within the licence arrangements currently. So,
Mr. Dubler, any you want to answer?
Sorry.
When granting an alcohol licence,
It's just a question about, do you take the nature of the area into consideration when you grant alcohol licences? Because there are quite a few. And I wonder, have you noticed anything that would explain that, well, as far as I can see, the discrepancy is that it's very expensive, and when I went in, nobody looked as if they would be doing what we're complaining about, which is mainly near the Bethesda Chapel. They're urinating and defecating and leaving empty bottles. So There has to be something which has caused this. What can it be? You know?
To go back to your first question about granting licences, the licensing authority doesn't really grant licences, the licensing team.
Oh.
What happens is someone puts an application in. If no one objects, for instance, a resident or a local business, then we have to grant it.
Mm.
We can't say no, you can't have it. However, if someone objects, again, we haven't got to say. We'll sit down similar to what we're sitting here today to make a decision. So to answer that first question, everything that's mentioned today will be available for the committee to make a decision, and the decision is down to the committee to make it. As you mentioned, other businesses in the area, you can make a little reference to it, but you have to remember that the application for the decision is the one that we're sitting here. We can't really bring other premises into it unless you've got a direct, relationship, and it's only now it's coming to terms now that there is a direct relationship. Whilst everyone's been talking today, I have been looking at our database of complaints. I can confirm that we've only ever had the one complaint about V87. However, looking at the watches, there has been a few complaints that's gone direct to our Lloyd's team, and I will liaise with them to see how we can actually rectify them.
In your experience of licensing applications, would you say that there has been an increase in the number of premises in and around Hillgate Village? So not so much necessarily the pubs, but on Hillgate Street, there's there's a Palestinian restaurant, there's oh God, what is that place called? I mean, there are quite a few now that are licensed in what is essentially a residential area.
Can you relate that, please, to the application?
Pardon?
If you could relate your comment or question to the application at hand.
Now, just to clarify, to confirm what Fiona said, that if anyone can apply for a licence, it's a permissive act. So as long as they're going to promote the licensing objectives, a licence will be granted. So they are entitled to apply. Today we are only considering the V87 application for an extension. They already have a licence and they're just wanting an extra hour on 3 nights a week.
Wouldn't you say that the discussion here is also about the restaurant aspect of the business?
No, it's not.
No, it's
well,
not.
there is a connection.
Yeah.
It is relevant in terms of the back door and the noise that may be being created. And I mean, dispersal is an issue, obviously, and that goes to the licensing objectives. And the committee have heard the evidence, the live evidence that you have provided to say what you have actually seen in your experience, and that will be taken on board.
Councillor Noor?
So do you consider the number of licensed premises in a particular area?
No, this
And
council doesn't have a...
do you consider that?
The council doesn't have a cumulative impact policy. So we don't have a policy to say that you'll only have a number. That's not a policy of Kensington and Chelsea. We consider that if there's a negative cumulative impact, but we don't have an actual policy that would create a presumption to refuse additional premises.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the applicant is, I mean, we heard your case and you also heard, your local residents, your neighbors. So going forward, I mean, if granted, how will you maintain, establish relationship with your neighbors?
It's really important, Gaston.
And would that be any indication of meetings in the future, maybe once a year, twice a year, to help them to improve things?
There's a condition on the licence which requires us to hold resident meetings. Sitting behind me in the public area is a Miss Bayati. She works for us and her actual job title is Neighbourhood Coordinator. So she works primarily with Los Mochis at the moment in terms of dealing with local residents. Some of the residents who have lodged objections about this application I've known to her because she's dealt with them in terms of Los Mochis. I have asked her to reach out after today's hearing to everyone who's lodged an objection here, so that we can organise some sort of regular meeting along the lines which is required in the condition, and also make sure that there's a telephone number that's available for complaints. So we actually have a specific person whose job is solely to do exactly that.
Can that number be circulated to me?
Yes, of course, no problem.
All Hillgate residents.
Yep.
That's an excellent idea.
Because nobody's ever approached us about this. I know that we're not in the immediate street, but that we are not aware that there's any neighbourhood that you exist in, or the neighbourhood that you talk to. So please, about
Okay, any other questions?
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
So you called David,
Yes.
Can we do a question to the
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I know it's a cocktail, but
Yeah.
I don't know whether you call your structure or your policy. Would your patrons, are your patrons allowed to have a drink outside the premises?
No, no, no.
Question one.
No.
Question two, if they want to have a fag, do they come out and do it?
Yes.
Cigarette.
Number one, no drinks outside the premises at all, 100% rules.
They have to be inside, closed doors.
Yeah. Number two, smoking is outside on Nottingham Gate.
So there's a smoking area on Nottingham Gate provided by previously as part of the policy that we have, just like everybody has smoking areas. It's just to the left of our main door is where it's been designated.
On which street?
Nottingham Gate, right outside
Right
the
outside
main
the front
door,
door.
to the left. If
On
you
Notting Hill Gate.
On
to the left.
On the actual Nottingham Gate.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and then there's condition 17, which says that if people are going out to smoke, they can't take drinks or contain equipment.
And if I can just add as well, that area is monitored by the door staff.
Yes, yeah.
It's extremely small. We get 2 or 3 people there.
Sorry, is there anything?
No, as I said earlier on, I mean, we were there at 8:30 the other evening and you couldn't walk past, the pavement was full, you couldn't get into the cinema because there were about 15 young people standing outside.
Is
smoking.
that on the
Not
outside,
in the
on the street?
designated area, right in front of the cinema door, and the little Italian restaurant, so,
How do you know they were
clearly,
from their premises?
because their premises, the front door to their premises is right next door to the cinema.
Right, but how do you know the young people were from
Because they
there?
were
Because
already,
you
it's
said
quite
was
clear
Tuesday.
they were just congregating having come out of there, they're all wearing cocktail dresses and sort of looking rather smart. I mean, that's a simple thing, if there is a designated smoking area, your employees need to police that far more effectively and put them in that area.
It's a very tiny area though.
Not have them blocking the pavement.
I can't quite see where it is, because it's pavement, basically, that everybody has to walk. Because immediately next to your door is the Italian, clearly not, but there's a little Italian restaurant, been there forever, tiny Italian restaurant, and then it's the gate. I think it's June's Nails, so it's just, not very easy. There's no doubt, it's quite obvious, these were not people going into the cinema.
Could
I
they
think
have
it was
come
curious,
from
it
the
was like
Italian
30.
restaurant?
No, it only has about 6 seats, and 6 tables, it's tiny. No, they were quite obviously a cocktail.
At the
It
point
was a
when,
party, I think, or something. Looked like.
at the point when you saw people having a fag or congregating, how many were there? Roughly?
It's about anything between 10 and 15.
Any counter?
Do you want to make any comment on that, Marcus?
Yeah, we have a smoking area that's been set to us by licensing EHO, which is on the other side of the Italian restaurant at night, which is where there is a little smoking thing, which is actually designated. There's normally 2 or 3. Just this particular event, day you're talking about,
I think it was Wednesday of
yeah,
last
it was a
week.
private booking.
Yeah.
And they finished at 10:30 p.m. and it was a launch, it's a private launch event that happened to be with a private guest list and private. Everybody came at 6 and 10:30 was closed.
So is that correct?
No, at 8:30, we
Yeah,
turned up
exactly.
before.
No, that is correct. I mean, I would say that this is not something I've seen very many times.
But actually, second.
Yeah.
Once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
The second ever.
But the point is that whoever your personnel on site are should be policing that more effectively and moving the people that designated smoking.
But that was a designation.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. It was immediately outside the front door.
But maybe it's something that you can take that as a
I mean, that's what presumably why we couldn't hear music so early, because it seemed a bit strange. It was sort of going to somewhere at 30 and it was boom, boom, boom music. Sort of a ridiculous, a bit funny. But now you say it was a party, the timing was right. It was about the entire length of the film.
Chair, just wanted to note that.
I have a question of the objectors. We are, basically, we rule on facts. I hear about people defecating, people urinating. I hear about people who are standing in front of, did you say a church that's closed or something?
It's the Bethesda Chapel.
The chapel.
Bethesda, you know.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of this, it
just
sounds like speculation. You're saying about the neighbors, we've also heard from neighbors who are happy because they're glad that some life has come to Farm Street. So I want some facts here. Have you seen people
The facts are,
defecating?
I have. Right opposite our house, I have seen someone between between probably 12:30 and 1:30, squatting down and defecating. I've seen constant urinate. I've seen people walk down the street actually urinating as they walk. I've seen hordes of young girls and boys standing on the corner. It's not my imagination, because when you tend to get woken up at 1:30 in the morning and you don't get back to sleep, it eats away. I look through the blinds and I see it all before me. Now, okay, I haven't got evidence of that.
Yeah, because you said, how many times have you seen someone defecating?
I should think, if you exclude the Notting Hill Carnival,
Right.
that's wonderful. I would say probably urinating over 10 times and defecating at least twice, possibly 3 times.
Really?
Well, that's his evidence.
That's your evidence, yes.
As I said earlier, the Farm Street residents were told that they couldn't come today, I think primarily because the way they structured their complaints, which I accept, obviously, they're in a mistake there, but because their complaints were focused on as much as they were told that they couldn't come, otherwise they would have been given evidence in addition to us.
Yeah, well, it's a different application.
And although you said that everybody local there's only been one person local in that list in Hillgate Village, there was only one person. The other people were there were quite a few in Kensington Park Road and things like that. They weren't actually within Hillgate Village and in the disturbed area. I think it was somebody further up in Kensington Place.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it sounds like we're talking about something we know, they know, but none of you have been there.
We know the area very well.
I know the area quite
We
well.
know the area very
You
well.
might not have encountered the issues we're talking about.
Right, I understand.
Well, I know the person extremely well.
Yeah.
So, I owned a cocktail bar for 25 years in the borough, so I understand the issues. And now, would you agree, you say you wanted to close down the many premises because it's affecting the neighborhood. But do you agree that you could mitigate some of these problems if you had meetings with the owners, which you have not had?
I don't see how that's going to stop me being woken up at 1:30 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning. I don't think there's anything they can do, because once people leave their premises, they've got actually no control over it. It's
It would help
what those
the extra
individuals
hours.
then go on to do, but they were there at the beginning of the process.
But at least it would help us if it weren't extended, the hours weren't extended. Friday, Saturdays and Sunday.
Well, let's start, I'm glad you're here, both sides, and you can, communication is here, you're saying what the issues are. So let's hope we can come to a productive decision. Okay, legal advisor, would you like to?
I've got no further comments, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Could I ask a question of Fiona? Would it be possible to set up an association of people with licences in Hillgate Village so that they could interface, perhaps that's not the right word, with representatives from the village, perhaps even the Notting Hill Arts Group?
That's a separate matter.
It's
They
a
can
separate
look
matter,
into.
but-
Can I suggest that's something to take to the police licensing team to organise? Because they should have some form of liaison officer for local businesses, and that should be happening as a pub watch scheme or something similar.
I mean, there is a local pub watch scheme in operation, but that's held by licensees and run by licensees, so that is one avenue. But I'll take it away.
And the business league member could
Yeah,
also
business
maybe have an open meeting.
forum.
Yes, that would be a good idea. Good suggestion, Mr. Brown. Any other questions from the applicant?
Yeah, no questions.
Okay. At this stage, I'd like to ask our legal advisor to deal with any other queries.
Yeah, I don't have any matters.
Licensing officers, anything to add? No. Governance officers, anything to add? We have reached the end of this meeting. We will now retire to make our decision in private session. The summary determination will not be announced today, but will be issued within 5 working days. And a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
The hearing is now closed.